What is up, everybody? Once again, we're back after a long waited while. If you guys don't know me, I stream on Twitch every day. So if you guys ever have any questions, I play a lot of Don't Starve Together challenging runs. So if you're ever curious about what I do on streams, you can always come there and ask questions. Feel free to ask away. I always like to answer as many questions as possible, but I do stream on Twitch, all fun and games. Exactly how it's spelled out on my YouTube channel, and I stream every single day. So basically 365, except for Christmas and holidays. But other than that, I'm sorry for the delay if you guys are waiting for that next video, but here we go. Before we jump in, I want to talk a little bit about two mods that I wanted to kind of mention that I've been noticing recently a lot more people talking about. A few questions were, hey, I'm noticing that my stream is lagging. I'm noticing that my game is lagging. I'm noticing that things are not running as smooth. There's two mods that work for this. One is Gem Core and one is Asset Manager. Both of these mods will help with memory, whether removes items off the ground that have been sitting there for a while. Gem Core more so just changes the way the game is. I don't know how the architecture of the mod is. I just know that they help a lot. I don't really play with them that often, but if you are having lag of any sorts, those are mods to do. And of course, another one I wanted to mention was just Global Pause. I think I've mentioned that before. It used to be broken, but they recently updated it, so now it works again. Basically, if you find yourself, hey, I have to be right back, I'm in the middle, you're in the middle of something, or if you're following along the tutorial and I'm going too fast, enable this. You can pause at any moment in time. If you have to leave or do something, your game will pause itself. Keep in mind that doesn't necessarily work in the caves all the time, from what I've noticed anyway. But other than that, there's no other mods that I've recently played with. There is one that I have been, which is show in minimap, it will tell you where the set pieces are, but I don't really want you to worry about that just yet. Keep in mind this is a basic tutorial, so you shouldn't be really getting too in depth. There has been a few updates. The new update for the return of them came out, so when we start the server, it's probably going to go through the process of having to retrofit. I hope it doesn't. Hopefully it works right away, but I guess we'll wait and see. So if you guys remember last time what we were doing, we were me and Kiri were getting ourselves ready for winter. We managed to defeat the Deerclops. I hope you guys managed to do so as well too. But of course, if you didn't and you're still learning, continue to try and try and try again, because eventually you'll be able to conquer winter and not have a problem at all. I always find that early game, getting yourself prepared for the Deerclops is better than waiting till the last minute. Sometimes, depending on how many people are in your server, you can wait for a while and before trying to kill the Deerclops, but I always say the sooner you're prepared, the better off you are. And that kind of applies to everything in Don't Starve Together as well too. So jumping back in, here we are. So we're jumping into the game. We managed to, before we left, of course, get ourselves ready with a nice nifty looking base. We have our tent, we have our bird cage. We were showing you some recipes as well too, which was obviously, we were mentioning the pierogies, we were mentioning getting yourself some more healing. But we'll wait for Kiri to jump in before we do anything. So we just defeated the Deerclops, and now we have the Deerclops eyeball. Now, the eyeball gives you one of the best things ever when coming to spring. So before winter time, there's a few things that we should be doing. Let's ignore the eyeball for right now. Not necessarily going to ignore it 100%. Let's put the eyeball away in the chest, keep our other utilities on us, keep our rope on us so we can make extra things in the future. We still have some healing salves because we have what is called another full moon. So if you remember day 11, we had a full moon, which basically made the entire game light up at nighttime when we were moving around. Full moons are essential, and they are awesome for working, obviously, at nighttime. So we're going to go around and do some more. We're going to try to do a little bit of cleanup, see if we can get some more ice. So if you guys forgot, remember that when it is winter time, for the last few days that it is, you're going to be wanting to collect as much ice as you can. Best way to do this, once again, running towards the edges and try to promote enough pengals to come towards you. One thing that you want to be very, very cautious about, though, is when going near the pengals closer to the springtime, you're going to notice that the pengals are not going to be as easy going as before. Because pengals are normally pretty, they're not going to try to attack you. They're not going to cause any issues unless you attack them first. However, when you hover over the pengals, if you are using the Show Me mod, you're going to notice that right now they're not doing it, but you're going to notice that their hunger level is dropping and dropping drastically. Closer to the end of winter, they become hungrier and hungrier and hungrier. And once again, if you want to press F4 to enable your auto pickup, so when you chop things, your character automatically picks up everything, you can feel free to do that as well too. So pangolins, you do not want to try to go near closer to the end of winter, because you know, give it about maybe 5 days, 4 days at max. Closer to 3 days, you're definitely going to start to notice that they're going to be attacking you. Once again, leave some of the carrots on the ground. I'm only picking them up so I can venture out a little bit further before we get the rest of the ice out here. And we're going to try to pick up as much ice as we can while still trying to maintain, maybe leaving a little bit behind during springtime. Springtime gets closer to summer. Of course, you're going to notice more and more of the ice starting to disappear until finally in the midsummer when it all disappears entirely. So that's why you want to get as much ice as you can, leave it inside of your fridge, and just leave it there for as long as you need until you absolutely need it. Now, we're going to start transitioning away from using ice as filler. So that's the beauty about when it comes to things in Don't Starve Together, is right now we're really focused heavily on ice as filler, but we were going to be switching over to berries, and that's why berry farms are super important. And we're going to show you a few things to do with the berry farm coming up shortly as well too, which is going to get you some meat added in there as well too. So now that we got our ice, we have our little evergreen set up and everything's nice and looking, you know, easy going for a base. It looks like we got a pig trying to attack our chester, and this is perfect. So that I don't know exactly where the pig house is. They must be over here. They must have just wandered over. But our handbat was close to being, you know, needed for another one. So if you're attacking the pig, make sure that if it is a werepig mode, it can get stun locked. If you catch it off guard, you can continually attack it, just like you can a spider, by holding F when you're close by it, and it'll continue to attack. However, you can also use the werepigs for something even better, which I might have shown you in the previous video, where werepigs tend to eat a lot of veggies, but I'm not going to get around to that just yet to show you until we need to in the future. So all the stuff in there, we're going to put our old handbat away. Let's take actually the meat out of there and make ourselves a brand new handbat. You know what, actually, maybe we'll just leave that alone for now, and we'll leave the meat in there and continue to use our old handbat, because it's still at 50. It's not that bad, so I don't want to make another one unless it starts to get stale. Let's put our pig stuff away. Let's maybe make one more thing that I want to do is create another flingos, but it looks like we're running low on space here, so might be best to start making a few more chests. And that's why wood is so important in this, and thank you, Kiri, for getting us that wood. So let's go ahead and make a few more chests, get ourselves prepared for once again the end of winter. Things are going to start getting warmer. Your character is going to be able to, you know, travel outside of the base more often, and you're going to be able to venture out further and further and further. But keep in mind that spring is not the easiest season either. It's probably the second easiest. Autumn be the first. Springtime. Sometimes people even say things like, "Oh, I find that winter is the easiest because of, you know, how easy it is to get resources for filler and whatnot." So we have 3 gears. So if you're using the Show Me mod and you have a gear inside of a chest, you'll be able to see that. But I'm going to keep 2 gears because we're going to need to have an extra Fling-O-Matic. But for now, I'm going to try to see if we can get an extra gold in here. I forget if we ended up getting some, and we did. So we'll keep our gold on us, and we're going to make ourselves another fridge because we're going to start jam-packing these fridges full. So if you have different skins for fridges, it is always good to color them differently. The reason why I suggest doing that is because the more items that you create inside of the fridges, the easier it is to tell, okay, this fridge, I'm going to be putting my completed snacks in. For example, if you're making a recipe, like, you know, whether it's a completed recipe or not, put that in the far right chest and put all your uncompleted ones, in ingredients and whatnot in the middle one and the left one. Sometimes if you have a different character like a Wormwood, which is a character that can plant seeds, I sometimes put like random nonsense in the left one, aka filler, and then keep your ingredients in the middle. And then that way you're kind of separating all of it, and you know which is where, and it's easier kind of just to organize that way. So I'm gonna continue to do that a little bit for a few seconds. Before we venture out, I'll probably grab a few more pierogies before we move too much further. So we'll keep the hammer in our backpack. We got some flint, we got some extra of our tools, and we're gonna move on to the next thing, which is making another Fling-O-Matic. Now, the Fling-O is gonna be super important because obviously we're gonna need to be able to protect our berry bushes. But we're going to start building something which is very, very cool. Now, keep in mind, it is still winter time, so I don't want to venture out too far of the base. So it's interesting enough that, you know that I keep saying things like, oh, as it gets warmer and warmer, you're going to go out and do more things. But still, you want to stay close to the base, closer to winter, just because you don't want to travel out too far, get cold, and have to come back for a fire. So that's why I always tell you that the most important thing you can do is always have fires pre-built, whether it even be an endothermic fire. Honestly, anything that you can have pre-built is always awesome. And that's why I mentioned that we had a pre-built Fling-O-Matic last time. But the problem is, then in Don't Starve Together, Clay has restricted how close you can put Fling-O-Matics and different, buildings and utilities when they're close to structures or anything for that matter. So unfortunately, right now, I'm using a mod called Geometric Placement, which is the single player mod. And that kind of tells you where the red is. Unfortunately, I can't place it, but where the green is, I can. So obviously, I want to have it around this area, but the berry bushes are blocking it. My hopes that is in the future, Clay will add an update that will change this, which will allow you to move things a little bit closer. But for now, we're going to have to, basically work with what we can get. So for that being said, let's grab our shovel and we're going to dig up some of these berry bushes. Now, of course, it's winter time. Just make sure that if you are digging up your berry bushes, they are not wilted, and you can tell the difference between how they look. For example, right now they're nice and green. I'll show you the difference, of course, just in case you don't have a chance to remember what they look like. That is a wilted one, and actually if you examine it, your character will tell you, I think it needs to be fertilized, and maybe they'll grow back. So that's Wilson will tell you that. So basically Wilson kind of tells you exactly what you need to see. And of course you can go and take some rot, put that in there. So before we do that, you want to make sure that that's all set, and we're going to be making ourselves a cool little area, which like I said, I'll show you in a second. So take the berry bushes out. Twigs, you could do the same as well too. We could always relocate the twigs. But for the sake of what I want to show you here, it's going to be very good for you to work towards opening up your berry bush area. So this might look like there's enough space, and it should just be enough, and it is. And there we go. So we can place the Fling-O-Matic in here. But before we do that, we're going to make sure that we place it kind of in the middle and a little bit on the outside, so we have just enough room for what we want to do. Right, so that should be perfect. I'm actually going to put it a little bit further up so I can have more room. So I'm actually going to get rid of 3 extra ones just so I can bring it in a little bit further. So what we're going to be making is called a gobbler trap. And gobblers, if you don't know what they are basically turkeys. And so I want to make this further in as I can, because I want to have more berry bushes in the future. And this is going to, cover all the twigs and everything that we have as well too, but also covering the extra base. So if you ever have a boss come inside the base that has decided to wreck everything and destroy the Fling-O-Matic, you still have an extra Fling-O-Matic over to the side, which can help you. So we got our trusty miner hat on while we work at nighttime. I don't believe we have any other fireflies. We ended up using them all, and we're not going into the caves just yet. So hopefully we can get some more fireflies before we continue on. But that fire, like I said, should give us enough light. So thank you for doing that, Kiri. And we should be able to work. As long as you're not working over here in the dark, you should be fine. So before we could go any further, we're going to drop down our berries. We're going to put down our berry bushes, and we're going to start to build a tent. Or sorry, we're going to start to build a fence. Okay, so you're going to go under the structures tab, and you're going to look for what looks to be a wooden gate and a wooden fence as well too. So you're going to want to make sure that you have boards on you, and you're going to want to make sure that you have some rope. And that's why we kept the rope from earlier, and we didn't use it all, because we're going to be making a beautiful little fence. Now, there's a few ways of doing this. Obviously, I have a few of them available for like the different skins, so yours might look like a normal one, and that is okay. You can go with a giant one, you can go with a smaller one, but I'm going to kind of go with something in between. That's why I wanted to make that extra little room so I can get myself behind this area. So we're going to go like this and start putting our fence down, and we're going to build the little fence on the outside of the Flingo. And now you don't have to do this if you don't want to. It's not like, oh, hey, it's a requirement. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed in come springtime. But I would highly recommend doing it, because it will make it very easy for you to get things in the future when it comes to meat. And that's what I'm going to try to show you here. So when you're making the fence, you can do it a few different ways. You can extend it even further, and I'm going to suggest doing that. So instead of placing it right here, which will be harder to access, I want you to take the fence and place it kind of closer to the edge. One here. There should be just enough for what I got. to make what I want to. You don't have to make it this nice. You can make it, as long as you're connecting and nothing can get in between, you're okay. And then of course we're going to take our boards. We're going to take 2 boards. Or it's 2 boards and I think 1 rope in order to make it. Sometimes I forget these recipes. And once again, you don't have to make it this fancy. It doesn't need to be, you know, as nice as I'm making it. You can just do whatever you want with it, considering it's your base. And we're going to go and we're going to make ourselves a wooden gate. Thanks again for watching this video. See you in the next one.